Welcome to the Chronicles from the Co-Founders Couch.
A segment on the AI Universal podcast where we get real.
No polish, no performance. I'm Tremain.
And I'm Tanisha. This is Chronicles. Let's hop on the couch and get into it.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the AIU podcast. That is AI Universal. We are here talking all things tech, specifically AI, leadership, workforce development. I mean, we wrap it all into one really coordinated and really high impact conversation here with my amazing co-founder, co-podcaster? I don't know if that's the thing. I just made that up, but it sounds incredible. My incredible co-podcaster, Tanisha James. Say hey to the people, Tanisha.
What's going on, people? And Tremain loves our title of our segment, but he loves to forget it too. We are on the couch, man. It's the Chronicles of the Co-Founders Couch.
This is the Chronicles.
I know, man.
Listen, I shouted out the very wrong podcast. It was an amazing intro to the wrong podcast. It was an amazing intro to the wrong podcast. All right, listen, people,
I'm like, are you your own guest today, Tremain?
This is an amazing intro to the wrong podcast. All right, listen, this isn't true. And you know what, guys? We ain't gonna cut this out. We are not gonna edit this out. This is real time podcasting at its finest in entrepreneurial fashion, okay? We are at the Chronicles of the Co-Founders Couch. That is the podcast that we're shooting right now with my co-founder and amazing co-podcaster, Tanisha James. Please tune in to AI Universal's podcast, which we do, but we have specific special guests who join us there, so you guys see the difference. All right, I'm gonna let it go. But okay. I don't think we need to cut this out. The people need to see who we really
are. This is the real life. This is what it's really like.
This is what it's really like. This is what it's really like. That's exactly right.
But I'm super excited to be here with you as usual, but really excited about today because we are getting into a topic that is the wheelhouse of the man, the myth, the legend that is Tremain Davis. So, let's get that out the path that you've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. And so we know that you have started many companies. But what the people may not know is that you have a very special talent that is part of the reason you've been able to be such a repeat entrepreneur. And that is sales. So this is going to be very much you talking because this is not my area.
Okay.
Learn from you all the time on how to do this. I may have like a little brilliant idea every once in a while, but that's because I'm a very good customer.
Yes.
So that is where my expertise comes from.
Got it.
Yeah. Of course, like any other, company, especially at the early stage, how do we actually get people to pay us for our product is a very important thing. And that journey to get to monetization, is so critical to a company is just like the lifeblood. Like we can't really be doing this for free. But so we got to think of how we can actually bring our product into the hands of folks and how that needs to happen and what they need to pay us when they get it. So as usual, everything AI all the time here. This is another area of our company that we are happily rethinking what the world looks like for salespeople in general and for the sales pipeline when you introduce the wonder that is AI.
Yes.
And so, we're living in a world where I think sales seems to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, a place where leaders have pretty quickly adopted or at least realized like, this could be a game changer. How to get the most out of AI when it comes to doing the sales, I think still is giving leaders a little bit of headache in terms of worrying that their company is falling behind. I think we've seen studies that like 78% of sales leaders worry that their company isn't really properly using AI in the way their competitors are. And that like only 5% of 5 companies are really seeing the value of what AI could do for their sales. So, as we think about like, what is it that most companies kind of at a base level need to understand to really start rethinking how AI can transform their sales process and really bring the value that it has the potential to bring?
No, that's a really good place to start when it comes to the sales conversation, especially when it comes to AI. First thing I would say, as a multi-time founder, building, scaling companies, running larger companies and smaller companies, from my vantage point, I don't think that sales ever is 100% automated. Like the sale is always a human to human thing. That's just my opinion. I think that, especially when you're talking about B2B, when you're talking about enterprise, when you're talking about like these larger, if even, I mean, you know what? I'll even go ground level. I mean, even if you go into McDonald's these days, where they're now trying to have a McDonald's where it's a machine that cooks the Big Mac and, you order on a kiosk and, all of those types of things. Yes, that exist, but I still feel like the soul of the McDonald's is missing, And so I just think even at that level of sales, somebody standing at the register and asking me, do I want cheese on that? I think is a very basic, understanding of what sales is. And I just think the human element of sales, you cannot replace that. And if you do replace that with, and I'm not saying you can't, if you do replace that with technology, with AI, with robotics and these types of things, it's intentional. And I think that you understand the cost, of going one way or the other, but it doesn't replace it and it doesn't act like it's the same thing. So you can't do that McDonald's that we just talked about and then in some alternate universe pretend to yourself that it's the same experience as how we used to go to McDonald's. It is not the same. Now you can make the choice to say, hey, it hits our bottom line different, we're going to go this direction because we're going to make more money, blah blah blah. Fine, make that decision, but let's not pretend that those things are not the same. You are losing something, by not having people in the loop in the sales process. So there's that. The second thing is, and this is just like first principles, and as an innovator, you always break things down to first principles. And when you break sales down to first principles, I mean, at the heart of it, it is two people shaking hands or connecting or something to agree to move forward on some sort of business or value proposition. Like that is at the core value of it, and that cannot be replaced by AI. Now, what I think can be replaced by AI is all the things that you got to do around that handshake and that finalized, sort of agreement between two humans. There's so much that happens to support that one, finalized interaction, and so that's where we start talking about all of the follow-up, all of the emails, all of the top of funnel, and as you work it down, like it's so much that goes in that AI can be amazing at streamlining and making that process much more efficient. But I do think that we have to say it out loud that the sale itself has to be a human to human thing. You know what I mean? And again, if you're in the type of industry where you can replace the human to human to make the sale, you're still losing something. And I just think we need to say that out loud. So I'll stop there because I want you to, frame the rest of this conversation. But just at a high level, you gotta have humans doing sales. You just have to have humans doing sales.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I immediately was thinking of like grocery stores and this recent report
100%.
that they're moving
Yeah.
away from self-checkouts. I mean, you talking about loss? Well, they're losing. There's a lot of shrink, as we call it in the
A
industry,
lot of strength.
with,
Yep.
apple oranges somehow walking out and not getting paid for. So I'm just like, I think this is where you're realizing removing the human to human interaction disincentivizes people to do the right thing. And it brings in
Exactly.
your incentives that you were not trying to incentivize,
Yep. Yep.
eating your labor costs by not having a human in the loop. So
Yep.
I completely agree. And I think you're really just, we're humans, like we're built for connection. I'm with
Exactly.
you. Like using AI to automate the parts that no one wants to be doing and the things that humans aren't the best at, and really allowing us to shine on the things that only humans can do. Because only a human can really tap into what's that unmet need? The thing that you're not even saying, but I'm looking at you in your face. That
Yes.
something else
Yes.
need, and how can
Yep.
I meet that need? Or,
Mhm.
asking different questions. At least for me, I'm not sure that an AI could tease out of me, at least in its current iterations, the type of questions to get the kind of answers about my needs to upsell me.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I can see that going very clunky with
Yep.
AI,
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yep.
and maybe even offering me a product that we don't even sell because it was
Yeah.
hallucinated.
Yep.
I'm just like, there's some real concerns about letting
Yeah.
be the last step in the process of sales for that. How are you reimagining the humans at different parts of the steps in
Yeah.
pipeline, and like how the team members, might look different? We've got sales development reps and other kinds of folks who do things like, how are you reimagining, even for us, what
Yeah.
that look like and probably should look like, particularly because we're getting to leave a lot of baggage behind from the old way. And this is
Yeah.
what I get so excited about. Like AI and what we're building and why we love having these conversations with everyone in real time is we're having to rethink these things, and we're getting to rethink these things. So in addition to the people at the end, where else do the people come in, and how do they come in differently in an AI world?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, a lot of times in sales, what has to happen is there's the company and then there's the customer, but somebody has to, on the sales side of it, has to like own the relationship. So somebody has to have a point of contact, somebody that they're talking to, so that they can start the conversation of, hey, this is our thing. We think it'll match your needs. Let's start that conversation. So as it goes through the process, what ends up having to happen in order for that company to sign the contract, then not only that, now you have to retain them as a client, which means that you have to stay in contact with them. So now you're talking about customer success, and then you want them to sign again, at the next year or, however the contract goes, so there are multiple places. And so, the front end salesperson, the top of funnel person that found this person, now they have to transition that relationship to the person that closes it, who has to transition that relationship to the person that owns the integration of it. There's an implementation team generally, and then there's customer success after that, and then so sales is like this long thing, you know what I mean, that you got to get right, and you can't have a breakdown at any one of those places, because then if it is, the person doesn't resign. You don't sell them again. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's the equivalent of going to a restaurant and, the whole process of the sale is choppy throughout parts of it. And then what happens? You say, I'm never coming to that restaurant again. You don't sell them again. You don't get the second sale, or you don't get the second contract. So it's like, it's so many pieces of that value chain that have to get right from a sales standpoint. Now, the problem is that, the person who prospected them, maybe they're amazing, the person that closed the deal, they're amazing, because they wouldn't have closed the deal if they didn't. But then maybe something broke down between that person and the implementation team and the customer success team. How do you own that relationship at a high level across all of those teams to make sure that that person or that company signs again, and continues to be a client sustainably with us into the future? That is a difficult thing that I think AI can really, 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 really help with. So my thought process is, how do you maybe have less people in that value chain? Because the whole problem is that the things that customer success does, we have to have them in the loop. The things that the implementation people do, they do that. But what if one person can do all of those different things, and one person can own that relationship and do implementation, can do customer success, and you can have AI tools that one person can own, or maybe two people can own, and do the whole suite of sales all the way through to retention and re-signing that person. So that's how you can rethink a whole sales team with AI that you couldn't do, because you needed all of those people intervening at different parts of the sales process. Now you can break that down and say, well, really, what does customer success do? They check on them, every so often, see if they have a problem. Well, look, we can spin up an AI agent that can do that. And the person that had the original relationship that was so amazing can just use the agent to do that thing. You know what I mean? And if there's a problem, the person who has the greatest relationship with them can just call them up and say, hey, John, hey, Jim, I just got a ping back from my system saying that something was going wonky. Do we need to send somebody out there? or do we need to come over? Listen, I'll be in Houston next week. I'd love to just pop into your office and let's talk about it. So now you got one person owning a relationship that used to have to get transitioned by person to person. And a lot of times it's not done well. So it's a ball dropped somewhere along the line. And now we have gaps in the retention process. So I hope all of that made sense. Tried to break it down as best I could, but I think that this is a huge opportunity in AI and sales.
Yeah, I mean, I think you broke that down beautifully, and I just want to go back to a couple things that I heard you say. So, and then one in particular, that I was like, "Ooh, I think we got to double click on this." But I think the big one is what I'm hearing is continuity of quality and relationship,
It's
and
the
that is
yes,
something that people
yes,
can't do right now because, to your point, there are too many people, and they're not clones of each other. The way that John
exactly.
does it is not the way that
It's
Lucy
not,
does it.
yeah,
Not the way
100%.
that Shakisha does it. So
Yep.
it's just like, and I'm sure we've all seen the little friction in the sales team when the one who is really the empowered person and who knows how to sell is kind of looking at their colleagues like, how did you drop the ball on this
How
handoff?
did you drop the
How
ball?
did you
Yep,
drop the baton?
yep,
Like I
yep, yep.
I served it up to
I
you
served it up. How did you not? Yes.
and something went wrong. And so I love that from a perspective of from the client getting continuity of that, but also from the person being like, I can own each and every step of this.
Yes.
And my effort at the beginning and my effort at the end, I feel good because
Yes.
I know that I delivered and I was able to do all those things.
Yep.
And the second thing I want to click on is because I think, I can imagine put myself in the shoes of somebody who's a sales rep who's like, but I like to be the beginning person. I didn't say anything about the customer success piece.
Yep.
Maybe I don't like that piece. But the key is AI is probably going to remove the parts of that role that you wouldn't have liked. And so
Exactly.
you're maintaining the
Exactly.
people function. And, we all going to tweak it. This person's sales platform and how they do automate their workflow might be different than how someone else automates their workflow. But being able to say, okay, you're going to own the entire relationship. There might be some parts you don't love, but there's probably a tool for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but you're still
Yeah.
going to get to do the people part. You're still going to get to do the strategy and thinking and what is the best way to get that customer through each step of the life cycle. But you're going to now be able to really own it and it's yours.
Yes.
And I can say, certainly as clients, like me having to only deal with one person who remembers what happened the last time something went wrong.
Yes.
Or, this is why we
Yes.
have sales reps who are like designated to certain clients because we already acknowledge the value of that in the world today of continuity of that relationship. That institutional knowledge is really huge. The other part is AI can be institutional knowledge because you're not always having someone shadow you on the relationship, but now you could literally input all of that like real time information about the client into your tool, and it is a repository for that. So you can even be a better salesperson who's just
Much
like,
better.
that time, 9 months ago when we had
Yeah.
you with the clients, like, how did you remember that?
How do you remember? Yep.
Yeah, told me, but
Yep. Yeah.
I really see it like enhancing the quality of the interaction, which
Mhm.
probably, you tell me, I'd hope translates to more sales, right?
Absolutely. I love what you just said. Enhancing the quality of the interaction. That is what this would allow to be done. And you hit the nail right on the head. John and Lucy do things completely differently, but they are both in the same sales, value chain. And like,
Mhm.
how do you, the client loves Lucy. That's why we bought the product, and now we just feel like there's a drop off. We feel like there's a gap. We feel like so yeah, AI will definitely help, in my opinion, to be able to do that. And I think if we key in on the human to human part of it and not think about like, okay, AI is going to replace this, replace that, replace this. No, the function that we're really trying to strengthen is the human interaction part of it, and let AI, any AI that we implement, any AI strategy, anything, all supports better interaction at the human to human level. Again, keeping that human in the loop, human centric technology strategy. And I think that is something that will translate very well to how you do your teams. Now, does that mean that the sales team shrinks? In my opinion, yes. You know what I mean? We talked about this in our last episode. I think that's the 10-person unicorn. I think that's the 20-person unicorn, because if in that model, you just don't need as many people, in the loop, and you can still deliver high quality, probably even higher quality customer service, customer interaction, again, human interaction with your customer base, than you probably could before with 3 times the people. And what's possible now, it's just it is mind blowing, to be a person, because I build companies, like I'm looking at what AI can do now, and it is just completely mind blowing, because I mean, just it has changed in the last 12 months, the last 6 months. I mean, it's happening so fast, and you just don't need. And here's the other thing for all of my finance people out there, all of my COOs and CFOs that are watching. Less people hits directly to your bottom line. If you have a company that's doing $1 billion and it took you 300 people to get there, and you can run that same company with 50 people, guess what? You just tripled the value of your company. Like, and I mean, that's just a real thing. But can you do that without thinking about the bottom line, but more thinking about the human interaction part of it? That's the part that really makes it go.
Yeah, because it's the intention, really. And I think
100%.
that is something that we need to talk about, with AI. And I think we're both big proponents of responsible AI, empathetic AI, of, again, like there's some real benefits, like we can acknowledge those, but
Yeah.
also just like how you do and use the technology is so important. And so we always want to kind of keep that like front and center. But what I also love is it really puts a great tool in the hands of entrepreneurs like us,
Sure.
when it
Yeah.
comes to raising, because
Yeah.
you tell me, but my understanding is hiring salespeople, because they usually have to come in very early in a company, is a challenge when you don't necessarily have a bunch of dollars to play with.
Yeah.
It can be a real inhibiting factor if you can only find like 1 or 2 salespeople who are willing to go on this journey with you and take that equity versus pay.
Yeah.
Trying to do that with 20 people, that's a much harder conversation. But
Yeah.
now it can be, okay, you 2 folks with a whole bunch of tools that are much
Yeah.
cheaper. Can you get the same results and get us to monetization, so that, if we need to hire a couple more people, great, but that we can reinvest in the company, we can do
Sure.
these different things
Sure.
that really just advances the whole project even better. And so I think that that's really another aspect of the promise, that I'm like, it allows people to really get into the game much earlier and not be shut out by high costs of sales. And I know I'm dealing with this on another company I'm
Yeah.
helping to build. And, she was just like, where are we going to find salespeople? Like, that's not either of our
Yeah.
expertise. And I'm like, we probably need like one.
Yeah.
We need one and the tools. And you could see her face just like breathe a sigh of relief of,
Yes.
okay, so I don't need to somehow go and find some money somewhere to pay like 10 people. We could figure out a strategy that is workable for where we are right now as a
Oh my
company.
gosh. So
And
good.
that just takes, such a weight off as an entrepreneur. You're already dealing with so many stresses. But sales, I know, is a real pain point, because it's often not something that most people are good at. Like,
Yeah.
it is a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
specialized skill.
Yeah.
Being able to sell snowballs to a snowman, like not everyone can do that. They do not
Everybody can
have
do
your
that.
gift of gab, Tremaine.
Yeah.
They have not seen you in action, and your ability to just open wallets and hearts.
Oh my
Right.
God.
I've seen it. I'm a little scared. I try to keep my little force field up so it doesn't work on me, in order to be a good co-podcaster, because I can't fall for it,
I
right?
can't believe it. Right.
Wait a minute, what's happening here? Oh, no, 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 no.
No.
I
Right.
don't
Right.
need to
Right.
buy that, Tremaine. I don't.
Right. Right. Right.
It's a
So
valuable
good.
skill, but not everybody has it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love to hear too. We've talked about like the team part, the people part, in terms of, better service for the customer and continuity. But like, what happens at the top of the funnel?
Mm.
Because I know that, for instance, my brother, is in sales, and he was always trying to perfect that lead generation, part. And I know companies who pay big dollars to lead generators to get those warm prospects, because we've all done our fair share of hanging up on telemarketers or getting upset when we see an email and I'm like, how did you find me? But I think that there's even, not just like the volume, but the quality. Like, I would love to hear your thoughts on like, how does AI change the prospecting game and
Yeah.
really shift what your strategy can be? And what does it do to the time element as well?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good question. So if I'm going to invest anywhere, especially on the people side of it, it's at the top of the funnel. It is at the top of the funnel.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a numbers game. The more you can get in the top, the more opportunities to close you have at the bottom of the funnel. And so, if I'm gonna invest anywhere, it's at the top of the funnel because you just need more in the top to get more out of the bottom type of thing. So I'll start there. But when it comes to like the quality of what's happening at the top, that's where this is just my personal opinion. Some people don't mind AI, the robo dollars, like going that route and just the ground and pound. We'll just have AI, spin up, dial 1,000,000 people, and then we'll get, 50,000 of them to say something. And then, that's okay. But I would prefer having a human do that part of it. Humans can see stuff in between, can find the LinkedIn's and say, oh, make these connections and connect this dot. And, if you go on LinkedIn and you look and this is a target person, that would be great. Then you can look in their friends and then 50 people down their friends, you see somebody that's connected to them that went to the same school that you went to, that graduated the same year and something. And you can reach out to that person. You know this person? Oh, yeah, we had coffee last week. And like, it takes a human that can really be good at prospecting to start connecting those dots. So I've had some really good prospectors.
Okay.
They would tell me some of the stuff that they would do to get the warm leads and get people on the phone and get meetings on. I was just like, I would have never thought. I mean, they are creative. I mean, creative, and everything. And they understand how to match the needs, the mission of the company, what we're selling, the value proposition to the needs of these prospects and these people that they're going after. And like, I mean, it is people that are like surgical in doing that. And those people are so valuable to me because now, when you get on the call, that person, the prospect is warm, you're calling for a reason, da 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 da. And it's not like a cold, AI email that happened that they may or may not respond to. So, I think that it just depends on which way you want to go. I'm a person, I want a person doing that top of funnel stuff, and I would invest in that for show,
I
and
have to say
everything.
I'm shocked. I really thought you were gonna tell me, and this is where I'm gonna push a little bit and like have you
Yeah.
sit it out because I
Yeah.
want to make sure we're hearing you correctly. So is it that you're saying you even want the person to do all the research part? Because,
They can use the tools for that. They
yeah,
could, again, I'm more talking about the human to
out.
human part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, the
Because I
human to
was
human part
curious,
of it.
the refining of the leads is
Yes.
where you're saying the human comes in.
Yep.
But,
Yep. Yep.
getting all of those leads, like your research and
The
pulling
research and oh yeah, AI is changing the game
out
when it
is
comes to that.
huge. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
people are
yeah.
looking at that. Like even Gartner's was like 95% of that research workflow is going to be done by AI.
By AI, 100%,
And I'll agree, like
100%,
AI is way better
100%.
at researching. I mean, if you can craft that prompt correctly,
Oh my gosh.
find your target customer and you can even tell it, here is my customer avatar. They have these qualities. Pull
Yep.
back the leads. And of
Yep.
course, to
Yep.
your point,
Yep.
a whole bunch of them are probably going to be junk.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
wanted to also highlight something else you said because the tactics of the salespeople to go and do research and find the linkages and relationship, we need to remember because this is becoming increasingly the case. A lot of sites that require logins or paywalls are not places that AI can go.
That's
Right?
so true.
And so
So true.
you're right. You need the
So
person
true.
to fill out that prospect because I mean, Claude tells me this all the time. She's like, I'm like, where did you find this? And she's like, well, actually, I didn't really read the thing because I wasn't able to go and read. I'm like, couldn't you have told me that? I'm like, this happened to me doing a search for Airbnbs, planning like a trip for my boyfriend. And I had it looking and it was giving me these, I was like, specifications of a cabin in this location.
Yeah.
And she was telling me they were all available. And then I would go to Airbnb and it'd be like, this is booked. And I was like, Claude, what are you doing? What is going on
Right.
here? And she goes,
Right.
because I actually can't see that. Like, Well, that would have been helpful to know, like, 5 searches ago. Like,
Yeah,
so you're just giving me dates that are not real, and I'm over
not
here getting
real.
upset that, like, is someone just, like, following my search and
Yeah,
booking
yeah,
all the places
and booking everything. Yeah,
and so, it's just like the same thing could happen with sales is
that's so
like,
true.
it can't tell you who that person's connected to because
It's so
LinkedIn,
true.
it can't log into LinkedIn.
And
It
yep,
can't log
yep.
into like some of these other places to get you that information. So it
Mhm.
might make it up
Yeah, yeah,
or you're
yeah.
just kind of stalled out. So you need the
Mhm.
person who's like, okay, let me carry this forward to go
Yeah,
figure out like, oh, and then it's also the person knows the person because
right,
and I've
right.
seen you do this as a good salesperson, you are also the relationship person. And so you start to see
Yep,
where your own network is interconnected. And AI can't do that.
can't
Like
do
it
it.
doesn't have
You can't
friends,
do
not real
it.
friends
Exactly, you
anyways.
can't do it. Yep, they can't do it. Yep, yep,
No,
yep. But
no.
this is where, and I think AI is helping us to be able to hire tens. You know what I mean? Like if you have tens with the tools, that's all you need. You got companies that are made up of tens, some sevens, some fives, some six. They're all across the gambit. It's people that work at companies where you're like, dude, how did you even get here? You know what I mean? And then there are people who are rock stars, and it's kind of like, all right, I can just focus on really just getting the rock stars in. And instead of getting the rock stars a support staff, I can just get rock stars tools and have the rock stars do more rock star stuff. You know what I mean? And like, if you got a rock star prospector with AI tools, again, to your point, that can do all of the research and things, and they can just specialize in connecting those dots and making those pertinent calls. And oh my gosh, that to me is like, that's the holy grail. Like, like we're looking to hire one of our first salespeople. And I got some people in mind, and all of the people that I have in mind are those. It's rock star people. It's not like we got to hire like some knockaround. It used to be like, all right, let me hire some knockaround people who can do the research, the calls, stuff like that, and then one really good prospector or one really good closer, and then all these knockaround people. All the knockaround stuff is gone now. You
Yep.
know what I mean? All you need is that one rock star and some tools, you know what I mean? And like that to me is such a game changer because now, and then even the tools themselves. Oh my gosh. So my last ed tech company, we were paying HubSpot. I don't know if I'm supposed to say the name. I don't know. I'll just say it. HubSpot, don't come for me. We were paying them like,
Not a
like
experience HubSpot because
well,
I
it was
HubSpot story.
It was insane.
Yeah.
The $40,000 a year, something like that. And then granted, we had a lot of the tens of thousands of maybe 50 some odd thousand contacts or something like that. But just managing the contacts by themselves
SDR.
was a $40,000 or $50,000 investment that the company has to make just to manage the contacts. Now, what we're going to do with our company, since this is a co-founder's couch, and I've told you this, we're going to build our own CRM. That's literally saves the company 50 grand a year. Like 50 grand a year we're saving because we can use AI, use the technology to build tools for sales. We can build our own custom tools. And the one thing about HubSpot, Salesforce, any of the rest of them, you can't customize them towards your company. They give you the templates and you can do a little something, but you can't customize them directly towards what you need as a company. AI, we're going to build, and I've already built it. I just got to, tweak it and get it implemented in the company as we start to go out for sales for our B2B SaaS product that we're launching. But oh my goodness, you're talking about a customized CRM that we're going to be able to hand to our sales team. And then through our intelligence layer, if they need to add fields to it, if they need to add sequences or any of that stuff, they can go in and they can add it right to our own customizable CRM. And that literally saves the company 50 grand a year.
I
And
mean,
on a better sales tool, so like it's not just the people part of it we've been talking about is game changing, but even what we're able to do from a tool standpoint with AI now is just 100% transformational in building out a company.
I mean, it's not even particular to HubSpot. You've identified the whole reason the whole software industry is kind of shaking in its shoes right now. So it's everybody is kind of going like, this static software that you used to sell to you, we're all going, I mean, and to be fair, this is not a new acknowledgement. I think we was all just whispering it of like, it doesn't do what I need it to do, or it doesn't do it
Exactly.
the way
But there were
I
no other options.
do it. And there were no other options. We were just stuck with it. So we would use it wrong. We refused to
Yep.
use it. Like we
Yep.
didn't like the way it was, the interface was. And so we just kind of, grudgingly, under our breath, very begrudgingly, we're using these tools. So to me, I'm like, this is a push for you software companies. Like, you've got access to the same things we do. And you've now realized what customers really want as customization. That is important, because one size fits all is not going to work. I mean, this is the beauty of AI, whether it's in leadership, whether it's a team, it's like customization, medicine. Like, this is part of the kind of like endemic benefit of AI. And the promise is we can now create things that actually work for us the way that we
Actually
do
work.
things. And that should be
Absolutely.
a plus. Like, that should be a motivating factor to some of these software companies to rethink their business model, because everyone's not going to be like us. They're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
willing to build all these things. There'll be
Mm-hmm.
plenty of people, particularly at the enterprise level, who like need someone else to take that on. And so I
Sure.
think that's a good
Sure.
push, for sure. One other thing I wanted to come back to is, as you were talking about that rock star prospector, I was like, man, that person's gonna make so much more money.
Oh my gosh,
I'm just
so
like,
much more. Yes.
you can do more with less. And, particularly in sales, it's commissions, it's all of these, it's
Mm-hmm.
very performance based, which is one of the things I've always admired about the sales. They've always known how to incentivize people properly.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm like, man, you've just took your earning potential to a whole other
Whole
strategy,
nother level. Yep.
which, you know what?
Yep.
You deserve it. If you're doing
You
the work,
deserve
you
it.
deserve
Yep.
it. So,
Absolutely.
go for it. We're here to applaud you, but the promise is really amazing. So,
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring us home. We've been chatting for a while. So, what are kind of your parting thoughts? Like, if you want to talk to us about, I mean, you gave us kind of the pipeline. I could see where some agents could come in there, but what's kind of your holistic worldview and the key takeaways about the transformation that AI is bringing to sales, and like that's getting you the most excited, so that the listeners can hear that as they take this away and really digest what we've been talking about in terms of the promise of what AI can do for sales.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, just at a really high level, is that it's going to take way less people to do the same or more of the work. I mean, just at a really high level. Now, because one of the biggest parts of like growing a team is your sales team. Just full stop. You want $1 billion company, you gotta have somebody selling $1 billion worth of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just be real. And so, like, one of your biggest investments is going to be in the people who go out and sell this thing. And so, like, you're talking about shrinking that. I mean, one of my AI companies, we were doing our perspectives. I'm talking about 10 months ago, something like that. 11 months ago, maybe close to a year ago, when we were first kind of building it all out. What does it look like and everything like that? And so to get to 100 million ARR, we thought that we want to need around 80 people. And that's what we had that's what we built out. We redid it because AI, I mean, it's just changed so much in 10 months. So we
Wow.
redid it like a couple of months ago, and we think we can get to that same number. Get this, hold up, drum roll,
I was about
please.
to say drum roll.
With 15 people.
No.
We went from 80 to 15 in 10 months, and it might be aggressive, but we think we could do it, but just the number difference, you're talking about almost 100 people to under 20. And like, just think about the implication of that, you know what I mean? And, now, and we're early in the process. So just imagine when that becomes the norm, like when companies, that's just how companies are built. They're built with 15 person, 20 person, 10 person, 5 person unicorns. Like, that's the norm. Like, imagine that. So now we get into a place where now you got to really upskill. You got to really, if you want to be in sales, you got to be really good at sales with the human part of it, first and foremost. And
Right.
secondly, you got to be really good with the tools. You know what I mean? Because companies don't need as many of y'all to get the job done anymore. And they need you, but not as many of you, and that type of a thing. So, that's the biggest high level, sort of takeaway I say about the promise of AI is just that in terms of sales, you're not going to need as many people to do the same job or better going into the future. And we're living that literally right now with the companies that we're building here at our company, that we co-founded. It is the type of thing that to me is mind blowing, because an 80-person, billion-dollar company and a 15-person billion-dollar company, I mean, the valuation of that company is so different. You know what I'm saying? Like the valuation just tripled. I mean, literally, because you don't have as many people that you need to account for to get the same output. So I don't know. That's my biggest takeaway about the promise of AI and sales for the future.
Okay. Well, your takeaway is less people. My takeaway is hopefully I remove myself from a lot of these prospect lists because AI tells them she's not the one. So I'm going to hope for that future. But with that, this has been great. Thank you so much for
Yes,
sharing your expertise. I don't think
yes,
anyone's going to walk
yes.
away from listening to us today and not realizing what a sales genius you are. And that
Ah,
is totally one of your
appreciate that.
superpowers. And we are very glad I am that capability within our company. So we
Yeah,
don't have to be trying to figure this out, trial and error with
100%.
folks. Like
Yeah.
we got the expert right here with
Right.
us. So onward and
Yes,
upward on our
yes, onward
sales
and upward.
funnel and,
Yes, yes,
our
yes.
what, 2-person sales team,
Our
5-person.
2-person sales team doing 50 million.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So,
Yep,
all right, folks, you're here to hear first. 2-person sales team, 50 million. All right.
50 million. Well, that's the goal.
All
All
right,
right,
Tremain. Well,
everybody.
as
Yep,
always, this has been great. And I learned a
yep.
lot because, again, sales is not my thing, but
Yeah,
I feel a little
yeah.
smarter now. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I feel good about talking about it on the Chronicles of the Co-Founders Couch. Let me reiterate that because I started out wrong. I got to end right. I started wrong, but end right.
That was how you start, it's how you finish. So, all
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right,
All right,
sir.
everybody.
Well,
We'll
thank
see
you
you next
again for
time.
the amazing conversation, and we will
Yep,
catch all of you folks the next time.
yep.
Thanks for joining.